Welcome everybody. My name is Sean. We are here today. I'm at ColDesi, and we are going to go over the Avancé embroidery machine and how to set it up for sewing on applique. Has anybody sewn on applique before? Any questions you have right off the bat that we can cover before we jump right into this? Okay. Basically, applique is using fabric rather than stitches. So if you ever seen Greek letters on college, fraternities, Alpha Beta, Lambda Mu, they're big shapes, and instead of filling it with stitches, which would take forever to sew no matter what machine you're sewing on, you would definitely want to use an applique. And you can use the Paisley designs. You can use vinyl. You can use, go to, Michael's and, join fabrics and pick any type of fabric you want and have that as the actual design with just a satin border going around the letter or the design in the Greek letters. Like I said, that's very big with colleges. There's certain designs, if you've seen certain professional sports teams where they got the big logo on the front. Give you an example. I'm a big Lightning fan, so we're here in Tampa. The big lightning bolt with the circle on the front of their jerseys, that is done as an applique. For one, it gives you a little more movability in the fabric than if you're doing with stitching, because the stitching, a big fill pattern like that, and we start to say that it becomes bulletproof because it's just so many stitches just packed into a certain area, it just becomes really stiff. So using an applique, it allows you to be more flexible in the garment, so it moves freely with the person. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to set up the embroidery machine. And normally when you digitize something for applique, I'll start with that, is you've got a running stitch around the actual shape. So for example, I'll use this cover right here as our shape. And if we're doing, almost a rectangle shape, the first stitch you're going to lay down is going to be a running stitch exactly to the edge of where the applique is actually going to be placed. Your next stitch that's going to come across will be a separate color and will be a zigzag, very loose zigzag satin stitch that's going to go directly over that line you just placed, splitting it on either side. And then, of course, your third stitch, which will be the same color as your second stitch, will be a little bit wider, will cover the rough edge of the applique if there is any, and will cover the single running stitch and basically your tack down, and you'll have a nice satin border around the outside of your design. Now there are some appliques where you have a loose zigzag stitch, which are normally like on your larger appliques, for example like the Lightning logo, you'll see a zigzag pattern that is very loose. And doing something like that, you want to make sure that your applique is a heat seal applique. So what I mean by that is, we now sell applique fabric that you basically will lay down over your design, over your garment. When you press start, sew everything all out, you peel away the excess applique part on the outside, and then you put the shirt underneath the heat press it for I think 5-10 seconds, and the glue on the back of the fabric will adhere to the shirt. So you get a nice, clean, defined edge inside that design. Otherwise, it depends on how many applique, pieces you're doing. If you're doing, 50 to 150 to 500 of the same design, one suggestion I would do is contacting Stalls. That is S-T-A-H-L-S, I think it is. And basically what you do is you would send them the design of what you want. They would create the placement stitch, your tack down stitch, and the satin border, as well as laser cut out on the fabric your design, and send you the the 150, 200 copies. So all you're doing is you would load your DST design in here, load your garments, center everything up like you normally would, trace it out, make sure it fits, press start, it'll sew the first stitch, it'll stop, you lay down the applique, put a little spray adhesive on the back of it, place it, make sure it lines up to the placement line, press start, it'll sew the tack down stitch, and then come across and sew the satin border. That is an easy way to do it. Otherwise, what I've done in the past, if you got like one or two, is you're going to take your first stitch in the design, which is your placement stitch, and sew just that out on the actual applique fabric. So you go to Joann's, you go to Michael's, you buy the fabric, you hoop it up, you sew that running stitch out, and then you take scissors or razor blade, depends on what type of fabric you're using, and cut directly on that edge all the way around, cutting your shape out. Next thing you do is you go ahead and you hoop your garment, you place it on the machine, you set everything up, you press start. When it does the placement stitch, put a little spray adhesive on the back of your fabric, place it on the garment, lining it up to the line that it was placed, press start. It'll sew your tack down and sew your satin border. Those are the three ways that you can do the appliques. Is if you're doing a bulk of them and it's the same exact applique design, you know, go through stalls, or if you had your own laser cutter, you could do it that way. The other way is if you look at Coleman & Company, we have the, I forget what it's called, but it's a heat seal applique fabric, and that is you just sew your design, peel it away, heat press it, it adheres to the shirt. The other way is if you're doing, you know, one or two custom ones, is you basically cut out the fabric yourself to that particular shape. There's another way that you can do it that, you know, really isn't, I haven't done it in a long time because of the other ways that you can do it now, is basically hoop your garment, put on the machine, set everything up, press start. When it sews the outline stitch of the placement, stop it, and then you've got your fabric still, you know, you hooped it with it, is you manually take your scissors and trim away while the garment and hoop is on the machine. It's trickier that way. It's harder that way. And personally, I think it's more time consuming to do it that way. But that is an option to do it that way. So those are the three major plus the extra one, 4 types that you can do appliques with. Now on the machine, I'm talking about, you know, you want the machine to stop between colors while you are sewing. So let me go ahead and zoom in the camera here so that you can see the screen. There's the embroidery machine. Whoops, sorry about that. A little bumpy right here. All right, on the control panel, when you're typing in your colors, and we will go to our color change, and you select option number 1. You've got 1 through 70 different colors here. If you have 75 colors, this will go to the next menu, and this will shift up. So, and to get back on the next one, because when you load your next job, you'll see it'll start with 71 and go all the way down. Well, you've got to get back to option number 1 or 001 to start loading your new colors for your new section. So you hit the page down key and it page back up and brings up this section. So we want to arrow back over to our first section. See, our design has 4 colors. Our first color is our text that goes above and below. Our second color is going to be our placement stitch. Our third color is going to be our tack down and then our satin border. And then our fourth color is going to be a little insignia in the middle of that applique. So we've got 4 colors. So we want the machine to stop after the second color. So that gives us time to place our fabric down to be able to do the applique. So while typing in the colors, I'm going to use, first color is going to be 3. My second color is going to be 6. My third color is going to be 4. And my fourth color is going to be 9. Now, I want the machine to stop after the second color. So after I place that second color, which is number 6, you want to hit the arrow, the button on the control panel has the 2 little arrows on it. By hitting this, I'm not sure if you can see it, but what you've got is a red box behind that color. What that is telling the embroidery machine is to sew that color and then stop. So it's basically you're adding a color stop into this design programmed into the machine. So it will sew the first color, sew the second color, then stop, allowing you to place your applique down. You press start, it'll go over, it'll sew the third color, and it will finish up with the fourth color. Does everybody understand that part? On how to place a color stop on the embroidery machine? I mean, you can kind of see it right here now a little better. You can see the red box. If you want to take the box out, it's simply highlighting it and hitting the double arrow. It's a toggle switch. You'll be able to take it off. So if you want to sew without applique, just leave it open, have the fabric of the garment show through, just back it up, take the color stop off, no big deal. Or leave it in, and when the machine stops, just press start. It'll continue on. So we want to add our applique in. we have our 4 colors. We press enter, it locks the colors in. Once you set your design up in your machine, the embroidery machine, the next step you want to do over here, once we have our start point, we go ahead and we trace it, make sure it's going to fit inside our hoop. And let me go ahead and put a hoop on so that we can see. All right, obviously we're at not a good spot, so I'm going to reposition my design here, reset my start point, retrace the design out. We'll turn the light off. And you can see we got a good fit. It will fit in this design. So when sewing, if you notice, when it stops here, it's going to be kind of hard to place your applique, your fabric inside here underneath needles to make sure you got it lined up properly. 2 ways we can do this. We can come to the control panel after you set your start point and after you do the contour range. So it's the last step before pressing start to start the embroidery. What you want to do is come down to the bottom right button, which has the green button, has the 4 bars on it. You want to come down to option number 4, which is the offset position set. We press enter. On screen, it's going to tell us move to offset, press the enter key. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the 4 arrow keys here, move our frame out to a location that we feel more comfortable about placing the applique down. Once we got this location, we simply press enter. It locks this coordinates in. When you do that, you'll notice on your screen, the second icon from the far right will have a flower appear in it. Normally that stays blank unless you do an applique offset. If you do the applique offset, excuse me, you will see a picture appear in the screen. Once that's set, don't move your hoop because everything is already preset. You simply just press start. I'm going to just press to get it back. It'll, of course, switch to the appropriate needle and then start sewing. Let me go ahead and just pull that back up. So the steps are, you load your job, you go back into embroidery status, you go to your color changes, you type in your colors, putting a red box hitting this double arrow key behind the color you want the machine to stop on. Finish typing in your colors, press enter. Always go to needle number 1, center it in your design, on your garment, go to home, set your start point, do your contour range check. The bottom right icon, which is green, has the 4 bars on it. Go in here, hit option 4, offset. Use your 4 arrow keys to move the hoop out to a location you feel better about placing fabric down. Hit enter to lock those coordinates in, and then press start. The hoop will move back to its location, change the appropriate needle, and then move to the starting position and start sewing. When it sews that first color, it stops, changes color, sews the second color. Once that second color is stopped, this hoop will reposition itself out here to where we preset it in the control panel. You lay your fabric down, you press start, it goes back to the position and finishes sewing the job out. When the job is done, it will move your hoop out to this position because you got an offset set. So not only does it offset it from when you got a color change, color change programmed in here for a stop, at the end of the job, it will also position the hoop out here so it's easier for you to take off, put the next one on and go for it. When that does happen, you take your hoop off out here, place your hoop on right here, just press start. It'll go back to its location and start where it's supposed to. That is one way to do it. The other way is do exactly the same thing here, except you do not go to the green button with the 4 bars and set an offset. Instead, line everything up, press start. When it gets to that second color, sews it and stops. Take your 4 arrow keys and move it out here manually. Place your applique down, trim it up, do what you have to do. Press start, press end. It goes back to the location it left off, and then press start. So there's 2 ways to do it. Program in an offset feature here, or when the job is sewing, and after it sews the second color, the machine stops. Use your 4 arrow keys, pull your frame out, place your applique down, press the in button. This will shift this back to the last stitch it placed, and simply press start. It'll finish the job out. Does anybody have any questions on those two options when sewing applique on the Avancé embroidery machine? Yes. Okay. When you choose the Applique Offset feature down here in the design, it will stay with that design as long as you leave it in the memory. It'll retain your colors, it'll retain the color stop, and will retain the offset set to that particular design. So if you don't do it in that particular design, then you don't have to worry about it. Any other questions that you might have? I mean, sewing with applique, it takes up less stitching, in the design. There's so many different types of fabrics out there that you can choose, to be for your applique. Let me go ahead and zoom back out here. There's so many different fabrics out there, from Joann's, from Michael's. Even if you go to Stalls and have them pre-cut your designs, there are quite a few that you can do in sewing out for the customer. Plus, you can still charge the customer the same amount. Yes, it costs you less time to sew that particular part out. If you were going to sew, if we're back here and we're doing the CAS and we're doing the applique inside, if you were to fill this at that particular size, and you had 3 sets hoopings for, say, a banner, you're probably looking at, I would say it would be close to probably 50 to 60,000 stitches, if not more, per letter. So in the sew that, you're looking at, probably a good hour to 2 hours, hour and a half to sew each letter. So then we're looking at, 4.5, 5 hours to sew that design out. If you were to choose applique, then all you're doing is sewing the outside border, and you're probably talking about maybe 15, 20 minutes tops per letter. So you're looking at an hour to sew that design out as an applique using the CAS as fabric. And you can do paisley designs. Like I said, you can choose any type of fabric if you're doing it for, your favorite football team. Use go to Joann's and buy the fabric that has their logo on it. Bears, if you're doing it for a blanket for a baby's room, and you're sewing a teddy bear, buy fabric that is kind of furry and use that as the applique. So there's a lot of different ideas you can do using applique. It costs less, and it takes a lot less time to sew, yet you're still able to pretty much charge the same amount for sewing it out, because it is your time, is what you're charging for. So, you definitely want to, test it, play around with the appliques. Like I said, just take, a letter, put it on screen, and just go around with a running stitch as your placement, change the color, and then just do a satin border around it. And then test that sew on a scrap piece of fabric or the front of a t-shirt. And you'll see how easy and less time it is to sew on the embroidery machine. Are there any questions so far on what we've covered? All right, now let's say we started sewing this, but we want to get out of it. You simply just go to Home and choose Back Start. It'll say Stop Embroidery, Back to Start Position. That'll pretty much clear that job out, or clear what stitches it had sewn, and put it back to the center of where you preset that start point. So if you messed up, or you typed in the wrong color and you just want to start over, that's a good way to do it, is simply just go to Home, choose Back Start, and you'll be able to get it back to the center where you preset it. So like I said, when you're doing the applique and the offset feature down here, you're going to see a flower appear. That will be the last thing you do before pressing start. But you want to make sure you set your start point and you do the contour range check first, so that you know that it fits. Once you know that it fits and everything's good, then come down here to the green button, choose number 4, offset position set. Move the frame out to where you feel comfortable about laying the fabric. Hit enter to lock it in, and simply just press start. It'll move back to its location, change needles, and move to where it has to first start sewing, and then continue. So when it gets to that second color or third color, whatever color it may be, it'll stop. It'll move out to that location. Place your applique down. Press start. It'll move back and continue on sewing. The other way is once the machine sews that second color and stops, you use these 4 arrow keys and manually move the frame out to a location. Place your fabric on there, make sure it lines up perfectly. Hit the in button. This will go ahead and put it back to the last stitch that was sewn, and then simply just press start. It'll pick up where it left off and finish your design. Are there any other questions on going over sewing on applique on the Avancé embroidery machine? I do want to thank everybody for coming out today on their busy schedule. We are recording this, so you will get a hard copy sent to your email address. Probably I would give it 3 to 5 days once we download it, attach it and send it off so that you'll have this as a hard copy to go over as a reference point. And don't forget this Friday at, I think it's 10 a.m., we have our tech talk on the software. I think it is, I want to say it's hotfix this week. I could be wrong, could be embroidery. But it's all online. You can definitely sign up for it. And if you can't make it, as long as you register with your email address, you will get a hard copy of the video that we recorded for you guys so that you can have a hard copy. Once again, I do thank everybody for coming out and joining me today. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at support.coldesi.com. Call in at 877-793-3278. Or simply you can ask it right here if you have any questions on the tip of your tongue that you would like to know about the Avancé machine sewing with applique. If not, I do appreciate everybody joining me. I hope everybody has a great week and a better weekend if I don't talk to you before then. All right, everybody. Thank you.